I say that because the floor is getting further away. All right, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Economic Development and Planning Committee. I'm Steve Horniak. I'm the chair of that committee. I would like to share that we do have committee members, Marvin Dabish here. Did I see Tim? And Tim Zale is not here at this point. We do have our other council members here, Mr. Reeves, Mr. Drake, Mr. Wolenzak, Ms. Pauloff. We're going to go ahead and get started with the meeting this evening. We will have Randy Rutenberg here, one of our partners in the development of the project here. He got tied up a little bit in traffic, so we're going to kind of change the order of the agenda for a little bit here. Saying that, we're pleased tonight to call everybody together to get an update on the town center, some other items that will attach to that. Perfect timing. Welcome, Randy. And just a note, we also have members from our administration here, from our safety divisions, from our police and fire group here as well. I want to kind of kick off tonight, if I could, by turning over to Joel Mazer, our city administrator, for a little update on some of the residential piece, as well as the TIF. We can kind of kick off with that discussion, then Randy will bring you in right after that.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Mazer?
Chair. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this meeting, we, as promised, we are delivering to the public what we had promised we'd do little over 120 days ago when we had the presentation with Fairmount Properties in February. So we're delivering the update on the town center with Randy and on the residential piece. We're also delivering an update on the development agreement itself. So one item that we're updating on is the residential piece. This would be the single-family residential portion, which would be the east side of the Town Center Boulevard. 36 lots were platted sometime last year, and the concept was to build out single-family residential, lower density residential. And we do have a developer in hand right now to see this through. The developer has a signed development agreement with the Oregon Economic Development Foundation, and we have this segmented out into 6 different options. So what they plan to do is take down each option as they go, one every 6 months, if not quicker. So they'll buy and build out 6 lots at the time, and there's 36 lots total. So and they have a closing date. They're trying to settle on a closing date right now. The developer would like to get started and break ground this summer, and it could go quicker. Hopefully, if things go well and the developer likes what they see, they'll keep this going quicker than what the 6-month timeline is. So, but the developer's name is Guide. That's Geyde. That's the owner of the fiberglass tower. That's the tall brown building in downtown Toledo. It's the 2nd tallest building, but it sits highest in elevation, in fact. But it's the tall, narrow brown building. They did, yeah. So that's really the update. They're very eager to get started, very eager to break ground. And that's the key here, is that we'll have a groundbreaking this year as long as the closing goes well and everything goes through. So spoke with them today, and yeah, everything's still on course. One item as an update for everybody on the TIF districts in general. I think I updated everybody last time, but the TIF district for the apartment development is in place. We are working on the residential TIF district right now. That would be for the single-family residential. We have to have that completed and approved by the end of the year so that we can capture that groundbreaking and development valuation increases within the TIF revenue portion that we're counting on as a part of this project. After that, we will move into the portion where there's an aggregated portion that's a big chunk of properties around the town center. That's from Coy all the way to on Navarre all the way to 280. a big area. And also the last one would be just for the Kmart, the former Kmart property in the town center. So those are still in the works. And, you know, by the end of this year and into the beginning of next year is when we plan to have those phased in and brought before city council for approval. So just wanted to keep everybody posted on that. That's a very key element to having this project be the success that it's going to be. So that's all I have on the updates for this portion. Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you unless anybody has questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mays. Is there anybody from council or any other members with questions? All right, we'll move forward. Next item we'll have is we've got Randy here. Got a little delay, but not that much of one, so we appreciate you being here. So Randy Rutenberg is here from Fairmount Properties. He's going to give us an update not only for the design look of the town center, be able to make some announcements for some exciting things happening within the town center and, if you will, the first dominoes to fall. So with that, Randy, we'll invite you to come forward and kind of tell us where we're at.
Thank you. Are you controlling the clicker?
Yes, I'm gonna give Stu if you like.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, City Manager, Mayor, members of council, guests. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and provide an update to the Oregon Town Center Mixed Use District. And it's a district because it's more than just retail. It's office, it's housing, both multifamily and for sale. And as you'll see from the presentation, also a big part of what we're excited about here is the opportunity to create space where people come from the community to gather for events, for programming. So to us, this will be kind of Oregon's downtown, if you will. Hopefully people will embrace it in that manner. So I'm the CEO and founder of Fairmount Properties. We could just click to the next slide. So we're celebrating our 25th year anniversary. There's 32 professionals at our company. And to date, we've executed over $2 billion of ground up development. 90% of that's been within the context of public-private partnerships and working with communities such as yours to create environments where people can come together to dine and shop and live and work and recreate. So we're thrilled to have the possibility of working together, and we'll keep going. We'll talk to you a little bit about our company, and then we'll get into the project. Thank you. So some of the Ohio projects and most of what we've done is east of the Mississippi. We do have a concentration within the state of Ohio. You may be familiar with some of what we've done. There's some importance there with critical mass of tenants. There are about 450 tenants within our projects throughout the country. And given that there's a bunch in Ohio, for instance, there might be a tenant that wouldn't have necessarily have Oregon on their radar screen, but because they're familiar with the type of projects that we develop and the success they've had in some of these projects, they'd be willing to give Oregon a look. Not that Oregon is going to be a tough sell to a lot of people, but we are going to continue to reach as high as we can for the types of tenants that come in this development. So Pinecrest is a project that we've done on the east side of Cleveland. Any of you who would be interested in coming and taking a look, meeting us there, we'd be happy to tour you around, show you a little bit about what that project has done for the community. First and Main in Hudson, we're building a small format Meyer grocery store with some apartments above. Our company developed the East Bank of the Flats with the Wilstein family. Kent, we did a project. So we've got a couple million square feet of retail office. We're working on our 7th hotel. We've got about 1,200 residents that put their head down in one of our apartments each and every night. So we do touch all the different food groups. Mixed use projects are necessarily, it's not like you're buying a greenfield site and putting up a strip center. These are multifaceted buildings with multiple uses. Here it will be mostly horizontal, but I think we do have some opportunity to create some real mixed use here. Slide. This is First and Main in Hudson. We opened it in 2004. We still own that, still manage it. And it was built as a seamless extension of the existing Main Street. So it's contextual. And again, it's got a very strong and productive mix of restaurants and non-restaurant uses. Slide, please. This Pinecrest we finished in 2018. It was a winner of the ICS, North American Global Award for Mixed Use Development, which we're very proud of. There's hundreds in the country, and to have been chosen was a real sense of pride for our company. This is office, this is residential, this is a hotel, a theater, and again, ground floor retail. So what's important to us in any of these mixed use projects is really to engage the customer at street level. We do that with patios, we do that with architecture, we do that with their offerings by selecting the right tenants. So we think there's a real opportunity here in Oregon to create a town center with a lot of excitement on the street, not only with patios, but you'll see we've got outdoor space for events. Next slide. A little bit more about Pinecrest. In each of our projects, and it will be no different here, we have a fairly large town center green. So our company has produced over 1,400 separate events since our inception. So it's very important for us not only to build a good project, to lease it well, but then to sustain it over time so that you're not building something that looks nice and tenants are leaving the next year. We choose tenants who are sustainable, not in the sustainable recycling kind of sustainable, although a lot of them are, but who are going to be in business for a long time. Tenants who have some sophistication in the way they do their research and look at markets so that we could always count on them being there for some period of time. Next slide. So programming is something that's very important to us. The fact that you'll have a large town center green, the fact that there will be a dog park. We had, I'm not sure it's on one of these slides, but we're in the Guinness Book of World Record for the largest picture, the largest number of dogs gathering for a picture. So we do a lot to really drive traffic. Animals are beloved members of people's families, and we have events for pets and people, and these are examples of some of those. Next slide. Some of the events at Hudson. Hudson, for instance, we've got 33 events there every single year. And every one of our projects, including this one, will have its own marketing person, its own property manager, so that it's managed professionally. Next slide. So we'll talk a little bit about the plan. This has not necessarily been a linear process to get to this plan, but what's important to us and should be important to everybody in this room is that we've got a plan that works for our retail and restaurant partners. We've had a plan that has looked a bit more like a power center. We've had a plan that had a spine down the middle. Our leasing team has taken that plan out all those plans out. And the plan that we think will work best is what you're looking at here. So upper plan left, you've got a restaurant that's currently 7,500 square feet. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. I think that may shrink a bit. To the right, there is a national coffee operation that's very interested in being here. I think we've decided to maybe hold off and see what else we'll find before we make that kind of deal. And then you've got the hotel plan left. That's a Home2 Suites. Super excited about the operator. They have spoken with folks from the city. They've got 6 other hotels in this area. We're working on another hotel project with them now. Just kind people, smart people, and award-winning with their different hospitality brands. And then in the middle, we've got a series of 4 boxes. When I say boxes, smaller boxes, some will be restaurants, some will be, ice cream, some will be yoga. You might see somebody like a Balance. And one of those, Beerhead, which is a tenant that is an LOI signed for this project, will be in this area. And then that's a pedestrian green between those 4 buildings. So that will be an area for smaller events, concerts, patios will be fronting that green. You'll see that a little further down the line. And then what we are proposing is for right now not to plan either of those 2 back spaces. We want to get going with the leasing and see what evolves. There's been some talk of maybe some quasi-public uses, maybe a small arena and an ice rink. There's an opportunity for us to do some more housing there. If we had a grocery store, that's where a grocery store would land. So for the present time, those 2 spaces are unplanned, although we certainly have some ideas about those areas. It could be a repeat of those 4 boxes with another green space. So there's lots of opportunities on that back area. Next slide. This gives you a little sense. Obviously, the buildings are not going to look anything like this. This is just for massing. But you could see Navarre kind of on the front of the plan, the restaurant to the right. If we did a coffee with a drive-through, it would be to the left. You could see the hotel. And then you've got those 4 boxes. The parapets of those boxes will be increasingly larger, higher as you move back so that there's great visibility toward Navarre. And the parking is really tucked behind these buildings. So if you look at any of our projects, there's certain tenants you just can't help. They need front parking fields. But I think once you're in these 4 buildings, you're really interacting with that pedestrian space and the restaurants across. You're not interacting with huge parking fields. Next slide. Just a couple different views of that same massing. Next slide. Happy to come back to any of these. Next slide. Next slide. So these are just some very early sketches facing in toward that green. They're obviously not going to be great buildings. Again, these are massing, but I wanted to show you how the patios would interact with that center space. We'll have lights strung across the green. There will probably be some feature in the middle there, whether it's a fountain or a gazebo like we have in Hudson. But this is meant to be active. It's meant to have kind of patios facing each other. You could see you'll have restaurant elevations that open up, whether they're garage doors or other types of fenestration. Um, So that's kind of the view back here, back in that area. So let me talk a little bit about kind of the three lead tenants, which we are very excited about. So Beerhead, some of you have looked at information from Beerhead. We had a call with the city just to hear it from the owner that they are committed to the project. So we have done 5 or 6 locations with this particular operator. Not all beer heads. We have done beer heads with them, but they also they have the license for Slimans. This is the original franchisor for Panini's. They have a very high-end, couple very high-end restaurants. So we could not be more fortunate to have an operator like this. A bunch of beers, as you could see in the picture, pizza, wings. It's very approachable, very family friendly, big outdoor patios. He's talking about potentially doing some bowling in this location, duck pin bowling. He's talking to us about doing bocce ball. For those of you who have been to Pinecrest, you see in pinstripes, there's been bocce ball there. It's just very experiential. Home2 Suites is a limited service hotel by Hilton. It's a great fit for the travelers. It's a great fit to be close to the hospital. There's certainly, I don't have to tell you, the wealth of industry that's in Oregon. But we have spoken with the folks from Home2 Suites, with the folks at the hospital, with the folks at the city, with a couple of the refineries, and other business leaders who are excited about this opportunity to bring a hotel like this into the market. So I want to spend a few moments on Olive Garden. And with us tonight is Stephen Taylor, who is a longtime member of their kind of outside real estate team, and he's been involved with Oregon from the beginning. So Olive Garden had at one point approved the site, went all the way through their corporate approval process. We had started drafting a lease, started doing some due diligence, and for a bunch of reasons, Olive Garden was kind of put in the parking lot while we explored some different things. I am extraordinarily pleased to tell you that their interest continues to be very strong in Oregon. This would be their first choice. They are prepared, and I met with Kristen Klein 2 weeks ago. We talked at length about the site. They'd love to be here. What they want to make sure, it needs to be presented. Again, they're familiar with it. Some things have changed, like the cost of construction, you may have heard, have gone up over the past couple of years. But they remain committed to trying to find the right site in this market. We think this is the right site. I think they do as well. What's going to be important, though, is for them to make sure, because it's a big commitment for them. And listen, whether you love Olive Garden or hate Olive Garden, they're one of those tenants that have a very sophisticated way of looking at market demographics. So they have studied this market fiercely, intently. They have determined that there is the opportunity to be very productive here. I think it's a store that, or a restaurant that, again, is family friendly. It's approachable. The price point is, I think, perfect for this marketplace. I just want to make sure that they want to be here. I want to make sure that the feeling's mutual with this body politic. so that we could go back, report that to them, so we could take that to the next step. Again, we have negotiated a lease with them. So we're close on the documents. As you saw from the plan, they do have parking that's important to them. We have gone through the exclusive language and some of the things that we needed to maybe get a little relief on, which they have done. So we're super excited to have them be part of this project. Maybe we could finish up and then we could come back. Does that work? So this will give you a sense of kind of what we believe this has the potential to be. If you've seen any of our projects, most of these buildings are four-sided architecture, and we could just kind of scan through these, give council and others the opportunity to see kind of what we're thinking about. Some of these are projects, some of them are more imagery, but you could see these are not going to be, simple glass and metal front buildings. These will have character and be something that will really attract people, not only from Toledo and Oregon, but from places like Catawba, and make this a stop on the way to Detroit or the parks, etc. So this is our timeline. We are in business to develop projects, not to talk about them at length and maybe get the opportunity to do them. So we are very anxious and excited to get moving on this project. We feel like a lot of things have come together and the way they need to for us to be able to advance this. So we have a development agreement that was sent to us just recently, which is on time. And we're going to go through it next week and get comments back to the city. I don't know that there's any game changers based on our conversation. So through 2023, we're going to wrap up our leasing, get formal site plan approval, then immediately go into architectural documents. That's a 6 to 9 month period. 2024, we are going to break ground, and then this will open in 2025, probably late spring, early summer. But a good time to open this with the events and patio seating and things of that nature. So that is the end of the presentation. Happy to answer questions at this point.
Thank you, Randy. Just a comment or two before we open it up to other questions or dialogue. I do want to share with you as well our excitement with the Olive Garden development into that. I can guarantee you Facebook pages are exploding with the simple word of Olive Garden being said in Oregon. But to know that we're right there, I mean, we were very close to a point. We're excited to have them here. They do a great job of bringing people in, do a great job with what they offer to the public. And we're looking forward to them being part of this and what they also add to this entire development as we go. I think it's also good to hear the other commitments and developments that we have going, which we know begets other ones as you and I talk and we talk amongst ourselves. Some of the other interest and activity that's gone on now that we start to see the first commitments fall in line and start to happen. I think the new design and development works well. I think it gives us a good premise to continue to build on, which, we appreciate your time and effort in getting to the point where we got to, I'll say, the most marketable plan we feel we can do to get this developed. But we're excited with that. We're excited to see Beerhead come in. Great to see the Home2 Suites come in. Someone who spends a lot of time in hotels, they're good places. So we're glad to have them all here and start kind of that process of how this builds around with those, and still knowing that we have great space in the rear of the property that will continue to develop as we fill in from the front side to get activity going. So with that, I'd open it up to anybody from the committee. Marvin, anything to say? Council members, any questions, comments, thoughts? Okay. Anyone else? Anybody from the administration?
I would like to see
Mayor.
something, when we approached having a project here, we were faced with a Kmart building, and we had the fear that there was a lot of interest in someone buying it other than us. And, for all likelihood, we would have seen a U-Haul there because there was several different people interested in purchasing that and making that building, retrofitting it into a U-Haul, which is definitely what we didn't want. We had an opportunity, and it only came then when the Kmart building closed, to actually have space, which we found property to lead all the way to Pickle Road, where we could actually, we either had to do something then, or we would never be able to have something. So it's been kind of a timely procedure. We had the COVID come in and slow things down. The prices go up and slow things down. But nevertheless, we still have the property and we have the opportunity. We've had people critique us because they've seen plans in communities around us build when we hadn't. There were mentions of other developers coming to our site. And when it came to talking to all of those, they were willing to develop, but it would have been a strip center, just like we have currently along Navarre Avenue now. And we didn't want to settle for that. We'd rather wait and get something that we thought was worth waiting for than develop along Navarre as it had taken place since the onset of Navarre Avenue and the city of Oregon. So Randy and Fairmont Properties have always been committed to this, and they were willing to not settle. We have to have our TIF. People hear the word TIF, tax increment financing. It's a way to subsidize the project to make it practical. Without it, you tell them it wouldn't exist, would it?
No.
Yeah. And so other projects that go and develop along a state route or around a busy highway can just start happening. They don't have TIF districts there for tax increment financing. So we have a rather sophisticated procedure to go to get to this point. And through that whole time, Fairmont Properties and Randy Rutenberg have been very committed, and as well as started out with myself and Mike Beasley, and now myself and Joel Mazer, very committed to them. Because we knew if we change in the middle of the stream, we start over, we're going to end up with strip center on Navarre Avenue, and that's absolutely what we never wanted to happen. If that was the case, we could have bowed out and allow Kmart to become a U-Haul and not go through this. It was worth the hassle. It was worth the critiquing that we get, and we'll continue to get. But I think at the long term, for the city of Oregon, without the patience, without all the rhetoric we've gone through, we just would never have developed any type of town center, downtown, whatever you want to call it. At least we have an opportunity. It's something that years ago we thought would never have a possibility in our city. So I want to thank you for your patience. Thank you for having to suffer with some of the critiquing as well as we had, and we're still embraced as you're our developer.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. And to all of council, I think if you look at the other projects that we've done or talk with other mayors or tenants, we're very proud of our work, particularly in Ohio, where we're taking investors and other folks like yourself to see what we've done to be able to get other projects. So we're very humbled and very appreciative of the opportunity to be part of this. This is a project for your community. We promise to be a good shepherd. If I can, I'd like to leave some cards. So if people have some ideas of their own about what they might like to see here on this year community, we're not so bold as to think that we know what's exactly perfect for it. And we'd love your input.
And I'd like to follow up when we went down to Pinecrest to meet with you. And the only other person here was Dennis Wallensack, who went too. And I could be honest with you, scared the hell out of me because the place is drop dead gorgeous. And I thought, wow, but he kind of duped us in, but we knew we couldn't sustain that. So when people would say, what are you trying to build, a Little Lovis Commons? I said, no, we're trying to build what will work and sustain in Oregon. And Randy and his group had said from the onset, we understand that. We want it to be sustainable. We can't build a project that goes bankrupt 2 or 3 times to finally get there so many cents on the dollar to make it work. We'll have to survive the first time. And that the bottom line with it is it takes time, patience, and critiquing. And we want to be up to that challenge.
Yeah, no, I thank you. And for members of council or others that maybe have follow-up questions that they're not necessarily ready to discuss tonight, please feel free to call me directly. I'm happy to chat with you about it. Again, really appreciate the chance to be here. I'd like to thank you for everything you do as well.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Randy. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Mazur.
I just wanted to touch on one thing about the experience of Fairmount Properties and the relationships that you've been able to build over the years. And it shows now with the commitments that you have, the LOIs, letters of intent that you've secured now with Olive Garden, somebody of that caliber, and a Beerhead. And when I talk to people about Beerhead around here, there's a lot of, mystique and curiosity that surrounds it because it's not anything that we have around here. So people instantly get on their phone and start looking at their menu and really like what they see. So it's a definitely unique product that you've brought to the table, fostered by your experience and your relationships. So really appreciate that. Love having you on board. Love
you.
hearing about Olive Garden and Beerhead being here in the town center. Great products and can't wait to see it happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mazur. I'll go again. Any members of council that have any questions, items they want to ask? Okay, I just have one, and just to, I guess, talk through this a little bit. As we talked about and looked at this with the development again, we could have had a strip mall any 10 different times. We were looking for something that was a little better, I'll say, community impact, long-term that could provide with this. And I'll say the commons area, the green space area that would be in the corner between that restaurant. Talked about events, activities. Can you elaborate a little bit on some of the types of events you had? And then a follow-up to that would be, do you guys participate in the marketing and the development of those events? How do those start to come to fruition?
No, it's a great question, Councilman. Thank you for that. So, first of all, and I could go through a couple examples, and these are actual pictures of our project. So everything from movie nights to concerts to orchestra events and picnics to races starting there. One of the things that's exciting for us about this is the connectivity to the hike and bike trail. I'm not sure if that's what you formally call it, but to be able to end here, we've talked about having there's a station we have at projects with bike pumps and wrenches, water stations where people come and fix their bike, rest, park their bikes. So, we'll definitely leverage that type of amenity. And we do all these events in-house. So we produce these events. We participate in the events. We pay for them, or there will be sponsors. Some of the tenants will join in with Merchants Association. There are a bunch of great community events here in Oregon that we'd like to talk about perhaps relocating to the town center. Not to take away anything from rob Peter, pay Paul, but this district needs to be as much about gathering as it does about commerce. So this will be a place where people hang out, have ice cream, sit around. We've talked about having a great makers market here, which we've done a bunch of times. We could send you examples of the types of events that we would see here, but there's literally hundreds of different types of things that we've done within our projects that we'd repeat here.
Okay. Very good. Appreciate that, Randy. Again,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Drake, please.
Randy, I got a question, kind of what Steve asked. I know you showed the green area where you could have concerts and stuff like that. Do any of the other cities you develop allow where people can get a beer at Beerhead and?
Yes. So it's called Dora.
Okay,
And we have talked about applying for this being a Dora district. It's something that we would be interested in pursuing here.
thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. And just to speak to that, I know early on, and it was prior to your arrival to council, when we first started kicking it around, the door was one of the main
Yeah.
discussion points of if you had a nice collection of restaurants and you had some outside programming, entertainment, music, whatever it may be, having a Dora district would fall right in line with the concept of what we're trying to
Sure
create with
would.
this.
Sure would.
Okay. Hang on a second. Anybody else? Council, I keep getting shakes, so I think we're good. Last call to that.
Thanks again.
All right.
Boy,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rittenberg. Appreciate you being here tonight. In this one here, like I said, we're excited because we're open for business finally. We talked about that a little bit with the Buffalo Rock development, having some of these announcements, some of these things, having Olive Garden part of the program and back into the project itself. Beerhead, which I know a lot of people are very excited about, the Home 2 Suites. And again, that starts the process of the others that say, yes, we now want to be a part of that too. I know just in some of those conversations that we'll like to go through those quite a bit as well. So with that said, if there's nothing else, anything else, Mr. Mazur, anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair.
All right,
There
Mr.
is
Mazur.
Randy alluded to the development agreement that is part of your packet right now, and we're hoping that we can hammer out some of the details, but the majority of it is finalized. Like Randy said, I don't think there are any deal breakers in there right now, so we're still going back and forth. But what this does is this provides a few things. It provides, bottom line is it solidifies the commitment. Right now, we don't have a document in place partnering with Fairmount Properties in this public-private partnership. So this solidifies that commitment. It provides a schedule, as Randy pointed out, and it also provides what type of investment we're going to make or a commitment that we can make as a city as part of the TIF revenue into the project, in and around the project, I should say. So this is a true public-private partnership because part of it is programming space that we want, that Fairmount wants. It's space that we're going to be able to use too. And, if the chamber wants to move the farmers markets there, these are all things that this development agreement provides. It's not the final item, but at some point, this agreement is going to come back before city council for approval. So maybe that's in 2 weeks. We hope it is, but on the scheduled timeline that you saw just a few moments ago, we have a deadline an accountability deadline on ourselves for August 10th. So hopefully we're far before that to get an approval from city council. Like I said, we could bring it back as early as 2 weeks from now. So we'd love to and get that done. And that's all I wanted to say about the development agreement, but it's in your packets. If you want to, give it a read and we can, take any questions as they come up.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mazur. And just to requalify with timeline. So basically, the planning process would be through the remainder of '23, construction starting in '24, and to a substantial completion where we're operating and open for business in 2025.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. And the residential piece of this potentially could start as late summer to early fall, with completion of the first, I'll say, 6 units, since we're going to do them in 6-unit clusters, and then further development as they work through each of those 6 parcel pieces through the 36 in total.
Yes, that's
Correct.
correct.
Okay, so I just want to verify. All right, if nobody else has anything to add from the committee itself or from members of council.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
Just-
Walzak.
I apologize for jumping in here late. With the single-family residential, with the mixed-use development, and then the third component, the apartment complex, that is scheduled to begin next year, correct? 24?
Mr. Mazur, if you want to respond, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, right now, from what we've gotten back, they want to break ground in the spring of 2024, although it could be sooner, because they do have some underground work that they have to do first. I don't know if we have site plans from them yet right now, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that's, again, that was something that wasn't discussed here, but that is another major component of this that will be kind of going vertical at the same time.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So the apartments, the single families, and the main town center portion will be 3 different developers starting all around the same time. Yeah, that's a
Thank you.
great point. Yep.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mazur, Mr. Walzak. So with that said, we'll wrap up with our thanks, Randy. Appreciate you being here, traveling in for us. With that, I'll seek a motion. Sure. Mhm.
Scott Winkowski, I'm chairman of the planning commission, so I think that gives me a little bit of a right to ask a question. My question on this is, what is this the footprint of? If I walk out there, where will I see this? Right, because I know the entire development goes down Isaac, all the way to Pickle, goes all the way to Hall's Child, goes down past Orchard Villa, past Dunn, past Red's
Mhm.
physical therapy office. That's bigger than what this is.
Yes.
Isaac Streets, Navarre, Dustin Road, and what's all the way?
Culver's.
Culver's.
Okay.
Mr.
So
Mayor,
the-
right
So
in
the
there.
south end of this, what you're responsible for is Dustin Road.
Dustin Road.
Okay.
Yes.
So then there's that vacant field behind it.
That's correct.
Mhm.
And then there's along Isaac is the physical therapy, what used to be the physical therapy building and those things. That is not entailed in what he's doing.
That is correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Not, if you think
Okay.
about it, Scott, in boxes, as we've talked about it,
Mhm.
this is, if you will, the Kmart parcel or box A. Box B immediately to
And
the
and
south,
that's what I'm
box
just
C
trying to
behind.
clarify, because Kathy and I are avid Facebook writers, I should say.
Junkies.
Well, we try to inform the public on the couple Oregon web pages. And I don't want to get it wrong when I walk out of here, what this does. I love it. I love what your idea is. I love that the residential is going to be there. I love that the hotel's going to be in this, and that we're going to have an apartment complex in the back. We're now missing the middle, kind of. But at least I can give what I think is valid information to the public, because council, planning commission, people in the know, we get questioned all the time. What's happening? What's going on? And whether it's on the street or it's on Facebook or it's in this office, it only helps me to give good information, because the last thing in the world I want to do is mislead someone. And so.
That's fair.
Because that hurts your job. Doesn't hurt me, because I don't
And
have.
Scott,
No, we appreciate that.
If you've seen, this would be Dustin Road headed north. South of there, the we call it RD property because that's what it is.
I call it the New York
Yeah,
property.
all right. So I mean, that's the place where we envision a possible ice arena there.
I
And, you know,
understand.
or something like that would be.
The gist of my question was, where is Dustin Road on this map? And it's the
Yeah,
bottom.
it's the bottom of-
Bottom of his view.
Yep.
Okay.
So in essence, you're talking about the Kmart property,
I understand.
in essence of what this piece or box A is.
Beautiful.
And that's a fair question.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott. All right, so we have a motion for adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Drake. Anybody who wants to continue it, then we'll go ahead and adjourn at 6:52.